First of all, thank you all very much for coming here today. You're all very welcome. My own name is Helen O'Sullivan. I'm a suckler and dry stock farmer from West Cork. I'm the spokesperson with Farmers Alliance and I'll be chairing our meeting here today. We have a diverse range of speakers here today. We are currently developing our manifesto as well for our political party, and Adrian Kelly will briefly go through that when I'm finished here. I suppose we feel a political party is the only way to go to voice our concerns. We're fed up of all the rules and regulations, the dictatorship that's coming from Europe. And I suppose our current government is just rolling that out from the EU and from global policymakers. And, we're just fed up with the current system, and I'm sure you are as well. I suppose there's nobody speaking up or challenging anything. This is not just in the farming sector, but unfortunately in other sectors as well. So unfortunately, common sense is not so common in this country anymore. This is why we all need to come together and try and make change. We'll have questions and answers in at the very end, just to give you a chance to voice your concerns. And then Liam McLaughlin, the founder of Farmers Alliance, will come up as well and say a few words. Our first speaker now today is going to be Adrian Kelly, and he's going to speak about our manifesto. Just briefly go through it.
Hello, good afternoon everyone. As Helen says, Adrian Kelly from East Galway. We're cattle and sheep farmers. I'm just going to give a brief overview of our manifesto, the direction the party and the organisation is going to head, and these are just general brush strokes. So, first of all, the Farmers Alliance believes in the freedom to farm. We will insist on food production platforms and processes be characterised and legislated for as critical infrastructure for the viability and well-being of this country and its inhabitants. This is to guarantee the protection of our agricultural industry and our rural communities. Our Farmers Alliance, our energy security, we've seen over the last while, energy security, the cost of fuel and all that. So Farmers Alliance believes in energy security. Farmers Alliance strongly believes that energy security is national security. Farmers Alliance is supportive of diversity of indigenous energy sources that includes traditional methods such as domestically harvested turf and timber. Ireland is one of the most energy import dependent countries in the EU. We import 100% of our oil and 50 to 60% of our natural gas. Despite this, our government has taken the decision to end peat harvesting, to end turf cutting, to demolish our peat-fired power stations so they can't be reactivated in the future, and to ban offshore exploration. We say in 2022 we used 5 million cubic metres of gas, we imported 158,000 barrels of oil per day. Farmers Alliance will support the re-establishing of oil and gas exploration in our waters, where the profits get returned to a sovereign wealth fund set up by government on behalf of the people. An example of the resources available to us, but denied to us by our government, the Ballyroe oil field off the coast of Cork there, which has somewhere in the region of 300 million barrels of recoverable oil and 6 billion cubic metres of gas. Farmers Alliance will defend our right to food security. I saw an item on social media there recently which said that you need a solicitor once in your life to draw up your will. You need a doctor once a year for your annual checkup. You need a church once a week for your soul. But you need a farmer 3 times a day to survive. To safeguard our agricultural industry and food security by ensuring farmers get a fair, viable and transparent price for their produce, Farmers Alliance will ensure sufficiently strong legislation is put in place to ensure Food Ombudsman has the authority to compel food processors, retail and wholesale outlets, etc. to disclose all required information. The decision to shut down our sugar industry was, we believe, extremely short-sighted. Not only that, the dismantling and the sale of the sugar factory infrastructure, like what the government intends doing with the closed peat-fired power stations, we believe is criminal. Farmers Alliance will review the establishment of our sugar industry. Farmers Alliance will work to encourage local production and distribution of farm produce, something along the lines of the, we'll say, for example, that urban co-op in Limerick. Farmers Alliance will work to ensure primary producers get a fair share of the retail price. The pro-vegan stance and the anti-meat stance of the EPA recently has shown that they are politicised, and by extension their reports may be tainted regarding water quality in this country. The EPA's stance, the position they took, that tweet about the anti-meat tweet, goes against, contravenes the Dublin Declaration, which was signed by over 1,000 scientists from across the world, who said that meat, dairy and eggs as part of a well-balanced diet are critical, advantageous to human beings. They also further went on, the Dublin Declaration also further went on that the 3 billion people in this world who are nutrient deficient need, let's say, beef, eggs, meat is essential to them. So therefore DPA is contravening that. So therefore, because trust by the farmers, the water quality survey studies by EPA is dictating, let's say, EU policy for Ireland. We believe that they have shown themselves to be tainted. So therefore, Farmers Alliance will insist on, let's say, a body like Teagasc or an independent body be funded to undertake a more comprehensive study of water quality on behalf of our agricultural sector, because we believe the water quality will be used to force our nutrient or nitrogen levels down to below 170. Farmers Alliance will protect our land. The support of the EU's nature restoration law by our MEPs was an absolute betrayal of rural and farming communities. This law permits the rewetting of drained peatland and the reduction of our food production infrastructure. The law states that any NGO promoting the environment will be deemed to have our rights capable of being impaired, and that their interests should be deemed sufficient to legally challenge the substantive and procedural legality of the national restoration plans free of charge. However, the law also gives governments the ability to restrict members of the public, non-NGOs, etc. from challenging the substantive or procedural legality of the national restoration plans by having the ability to determine what constitutes a sufficient interest and impairment of a right for them. The Farmers Alliance will ensure that all individuals, bodies, organisations will have the same rights and opportunities as NGOs to challenge the substantive and procedural legality of the national restoration plans. Farmers Alliance will protect landowners' property rights. Landowners' property rights are under attack. At a meeting in Loughrea in 2015, TII, which is the old NRA, stated that government goal was a reduction in farmers' property rights. Farmers, landowners west of the Shannon have been fighting government land grabs since 2014. Landowners' private property rights suffered a huge setback in December 2021 when sellout farmer organisations signed an agreement with Eamon Ryan that supports and endorses the forceful acquisition of working farmlands and yards using CPO, that compels farmers to allow wayleaf type access through the rest of their farms, and that supports farm division and fragmentation. We believe that the government will use, basically what the government is they're using the CPO to acquire corridors of land through this country. We believe that the government will use these appropriated corridors of land across this country. They're already putting fibre optic ducting under them. So we believe that they will use these corridors for things like the private wires initiative, water pipes, etc. The Farmers Alliance will insist on this agreement being revisited, as it was drawn up without meaningful consultation with farming and cycling communities. A more inclusive code must be developed. The Farmers Alliance will challenge EU policies. The EU trade deal with Canada, CETA, has been deemed unconstitutional in this country. Yet, Leo Varadkar stated that government intends tweaking some laws to try and force the ratification of CETA without giving the Irish people a say in the matter. Farmers Alliance are opposed to the ratification of CETA, as the investor-state courts contained within CETA undermines our democracy, our judicial systems, and will allow foreign companies dictate government policy. Farmers Alliance also will not accept the sacrificing of our beef industry by implementation of Mercosur. This country needs to have a conversation on what our neutrality means. I believe we're being sleepwalked into NATO or some related military alliance. Farmers Alliance are requesting a referendum on our neutrality. Questions or types of questions to be asked. Should Ireland maintain an absolute neutral position in any and all military conflicts? Or should Ireland maintain a neutral position subject to the triple lock arrangement? Or should Ireland join a military alliance and contribute personnel, equipment and assistance? Some within government have said we need to join a military alliance to protect the subsea transatlantic cables in our waters. My answer to that is Germany's powerful army and NATO membership did not prevent its strategic critical energy infrastructure, the Nord Stream pipeline, being attacked by terrorists or state actors. Farmers Alliance believe that referendums on CETA and our neutrality are of equal importance, if not greater importance, than the two referendums that the government has proposed this year on gender. Farmers Alliance will safeguard freedom of expression. Farmers Alliance aspires to reflecting the will of the people rather than imposing a philosophy on them. Farmers Alliance believes in freedom of expression and freedom of thought. Farmers Alliance believes that all inhabitants of this country should be treated with dignity and respect, irrespective of views or religious persuasion. Farmers Alliance will resist the politicisation of non-political organisations and professions. All organisations will be expected to focus on their core values by treating everyone with dignity and respect. And bear in mind here, when we say focus on their core values, an example of that is EPA, which stepped outside theirs. Overt signalling of compliance with social trends will not be welcomed, and the current tendency to create social battlegrounds in education and sporting bodies will be resisted. Again here, bear in mind Bank of Ireland's recent proposal to limit the finance available to farmers depending on their carbon footprint or the amount of fertiliser they use. That's wrong, we don't agree with that. Farmers Alliance will challenge disinformation and bias in the media. Farmers Alliance will encourage new and local media platforms. We think there should be an independent regulator to challenge media propaganda. Farmers Alliance will highlight the way climate change science is being manipulated to further EU's green agenda. EU is using emissions as their reason to close down our agricultural industry. That's our manifesto, that's where we're going, that's what we believe on. There's more to be added on to that, but they're the general brush strokes. Thank you very much.
As Adrian said, that's just the brush strokes there. We will be developing that further as we go along. Adrian made a lot of valid points there. One that stood out to me most there is that we need a farmer 3 times a day, every day. And actually a lot of people that are joining up online to the Farmers Alliance, we're getting a lot of comments back from people living in urban dwellings like in Dublin. And one person said exactly that, Adrian. I'm not a farmer, I'm living in Dublin, but I need a farmer 3 times a day. You have my support 100%. Best of luck. So that was a nice thing to hear as well.